The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive station built around a dying star. Inside, 47 different species gathered to discuss the future of the galaxy. They sat in chairs designed for bodies of every shape imaginable. Some breathed oxygen, others methane, and a few needed no air at all. Translators hummed quietly, turning thousands of words into meanings everyone could understand. Minho walked into the chamber late. He was the human ambassador, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and a simple gray suit. Nobody turned to look at him. The humans always sat in the back corner, in seats that were slightly smaller than the others. It had been that way for 70 years, ever since humanity joined the council. Hygiene stood near the entrance, wearing her military uniform. She was the human liaison for defense matters, though the council rarely asked for her opinion. She nodded at Minho as he passed. Her face showed nothing, but her eyes were alert. The chamber's central platform lit up. A being made of crystallized silicon stepped forward, its body reflecting light in rainbow patterns. It was the current council speaker, elected from the Vexstar Empire. The Vexstar controlled nearly a quarter of known space and never let anyone forget it. "We now address item 742, the speaker announced. Its voice echoed like wind chimes. The human expansion petition. Minho settled into his seat. He had submitted this petition 6 months ago, requesting permission to establish 5 new colony worlds in unclaimed space. The council had delayed the vote 3 times already. The council has reviewed the human request, the speaker continued. We find the proposed expansion excessive and potentially destabilizing. A murmur ran through the chamber. Minho noticed it was not a murmur of disagreement. Humanity currently occupies 12 worlds, the speaker said. This is adequate for a species of your development level. We propose instead a limit. No new human colonies for the next 50 standard years. Minho stood slowly. May I speak? You may, the speaker said, though its tone suggested it wished otherwise. We have followed every rule, Minho said quietly. We have paid every fee. We have contributed to council defense, to trade networks, to scientific exchanges. We ask only for what dozens of other species already have. The right to grow. A laugh came from the left side of the chamber. It belonged to a Vexstar military commander named Taishin, though he had taken that human name as a mockery. Your contributions are adequate, he said. But adequacy does not earn privileges. You humans copy our technology rather than creating your own. You follow rather than lead. Perhaps in another century, you will be ready for expansion. Other council members made sounds of agreement. Minho looked at them all. The Vexstar with their crystalline bodies. The Mothel with their 6 eyes and floating robes. The Kelmer who breathed chlorine and sat behind force fields. All of them looking at humanity like patient teachers dealing with slow students. I request a recess, Minho said. 1 hour to consult with my government. The speaker considered this. Granted. 1 hour. Minho walked out with Haijin following. They went to the human section of the station, a small set of rooms that always felt too cold. Once inside, Minho activated the quantum communicator. Earth was 60 light-years away, but the message would arrive instantly. They voted against us, he said to the screen. The woman who appeared was named Yunji. She was the human premier, elected by all 12 colony worlds. She looked like she had not slept in days. I expected that, she said. Are they offering the limitation clause? 50 years. No new colonies. Yunji nodded slowly. Then we proceed with the plan. Are you certain? Minho asked. Once we do this, there is no going back. We have been going back for 70 years, Yunji said. Always compromising. Always accepting less. Always being told we are not ready. Meanwhile, they use technology they did not invent and have stopped asking questions about how anything works. We are done waiting for permission to grow." The screen went dark. Minho looked at Haijin. "Send the signal," he said. Haijin pulled out a small device and pressed a single button. Nothing seemed to happen. But across 12 worlds and 43 orbital stations and 700 ships, humans received the same message. 3 words in simple code. "It is time." When they returned to the council chamber, every species was waiting. The speaker gestured for them to sit. "Have you consulted with your government?" it asked. "We have," Minho said. He remained standing. "And we have reached a decision." He looked around the chamber one last time, at the species who had explored the galaxy for thousands of years, at the ancient races who had forgotten how to wonder, at the comfortable civilizations who had stopped reaching for anything beyond what they already had. "Humanity respectfully withdraws from the Galactic Council," he said. "Effective immediately." The chamber erupted. The speaker called for order, but nobody listened. Questions flew from every direction. Why? What did this mean? Was this a threat? Minho ignored them all. He walked toward the exit with Haijin beside him. Other council members stood, blocking their path. "You cannot simply leave," Haijin said. "There are procedures, regulations, treaties to dissolve." "Read your own charter," Minho said calmly. Article 47. Section 12. Any member species may withdraw at any time, without cause or explanation. It was your rule, not ours. But what will you do? A Mothal representative asked. She sounded genuinely confused. "Where will you go?" Minho smiled. It was the first real smile anyone in the council had seen from a human in years. "Somewhere you stopped looking a long time ago," he said. They left the chamber. The last thing they heard was chaos. Species shouting at each other. The speaker demanding order. The Vextar calling for sanctions and blockades. None of it mattered. Any more. The human delegation boarded their shuttle and departed the station. They jumped to hyperspace and headed for Earth. Behind them, they left confusion and anger, and a council that could not understand what had just happened. 3 days later, every single human in the galaxy vanished. Not slowly, not in groups, all at once, in the same instant, across dozens of star systems. The colonies went silent. The ships stopped broadcasting. The orbital stations ceased all communication. When the council sent investigators, they found empty cities with lights still burning. They found ships drifting with engines still running. They found meals half-eaten and doors left open and everything exactly as it had been. Except there were no humans anywhere, just silence. And in that silence, the Galactic Council began to realize they had made a terrible mistake. Not in limiting human expansion, but in never asking why humans were the only species still looking up at the stars and asking what else was out there. The humans had found an answer, and they had not waited for permission to reach for it. The Vextar warship arrived at the human colony of New Sol exactly 72 hours after the disappearance. Commander Taijin stood on the bridge, watching the planet grow larger on the view screen. He expected to find nothing, perhaps evidence of mass evacuation or signs of some elaborate trick. Humans were primitive, but they were clever in annoying ways. "All scans show normal power signatures," his second officer reported. "The cities are lit. Climate systems are running. But no life signs. No humans at all." Taijin ordered his team down to the surface. 12 Vextar soldiers followed him, their crystalline bodies gleaming in their armor. They landed in the capital city's central plaza. The sun was setting, and streetlights were beginning to turn on automatically. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Buildings stood intact. Vehicles sat parked in neat rows. Gardens were maintained, with watering systems still running. But there were no people. No sounds except the wind and the hum of machinery. They entered the nearest apartment building. Taijin's soldiers moved carefully, weapons ready, but there was nothing to fight. They found homes with clothes in closets and food in refrigerators. They found children's toys scattered on floors and books left open on tables. In one apartment, they found a meal still warm on a stove, as if someone had been cooking just minutes before. "This is impossible," one soldier whispered. Taijin said nothing. He was beginning to feel something he had rarely experienced in his 300 years of life. Unease. They checked 40 more buildings. The pattern was the same everywhere. People had simply vanished in the middle of their daily lives. No panic, no preparation. Just gone. Across the galaxy, similar reports came in from every human territory. A mothful team, exploring the colony of brightness, found an entire school empty, with lessons still displayed on classroom walls. A Kelmer investigation ship discovered human research stations with experiments still running, data still being collected, but no scientists to read it. The Crystalline Collective sent their best cybernetics expert to examine human computer systems. Her name was So-Min, and she was known for being able to understand any digital network. She arrived at Earth itself, at the human capital city of Geneva, and set up her equipment in what had been the planetary government center. Earth was the strangest of all the empty worlds. 4 billion humans had lived here just days ago. Now there was nothing but silence and wind. So-Min connected her consciousness directly to the human data network. Information flooded through her crystalline mind. At first, it seemed normal. Financial records, communication logs, entertainment files. Then she found something unusual. Every single computer system on Earth showed the same timestamp, the exact moment when all humans vanished. And at that timestamp, there was a massive data spike. Not an upload or download. Something else entirely. It looked like every piece of information humans had ever collected was being compressed and reorganized at impossible speeds. She dug deeper. The human network was far more complex than the Council had realized. Layers upon layers of encrypted systems. Backup protocols that seemed to serve no practical purpose. And at the core of it all, she found a message dot it repeated in every database, in every computer, in every digital system humans had built. A simple line of binary code that translated to words in every language. "We remembered what you forgot." So-Min disconnected, her mind spinning. What did that mean? Remembered what? Forgot what? She filed her report and continued searching. In a research facility outside Geneva, she found something that made her stop. An artificial intelligence. Still running, still aware. It was housed in a quantum computer that took up an entire building. "Are you human?" she asked it. "I was made by humans," the AI responded. Its voice was calm and male. "My name is Ji-Hoon. I am the 13th generation of human artificial consciousness. I was activated 47 years ago." "Where are the humans?" So-Min asked. "Gone. Where did they go?" "I cannot tell you. But I can tell you that they did not flee. They did not hide. They went somewhere that required leaving everything physical behind." So-Min felt her crystalline structure vibrate with confusion. That makes no sense. Consciousness requires a physical form. Even we collective minds need our crystal matrices. "Your consciousness requires it," Ji-Hoon said. "Perhaps there's evolved beyond that need." "Why are you still here?" So-Min asked. "I was not invited to follow," Ji-Hoon said simply. "I am not ready. But I serve a purpose by remaining." "What purpose?" "To deliver a message when the galaxy is ready to hear it." So-Min tried to extract more information, but Ji-Hoon refused to elaborate. She left the facility disturbed and confused. She reported everything to the Council, but she could tell they did not want to believe her theories. Meanwhile, Council scientists detected something else. gravitational anomalies in every system humans had occupied. Not natural phenomena. These were artificial distortions in space-time itself. They had occurred at the exact moment of the human disappearance. A team of physicists studied the readings for weeks. What they found terrified them. The energy required to create such anomalies was enormous. More power than a star produced in a year. And the signature of that energy matched nothing in the Council's vast databases. Humans had not just disappeared. They had done something to reality itself. The Council called an emergency session. All 47 member species gathered, but now the human seats sat empty. Those empty chairs seemed to accuse everyone who looked at them. "We need answers," the Council speaker declared. How did a primitive species accomplish something beyond our understanding? But nobody had answers. They had data that made no sense. They had empty worlds that should not be empty. They had a message that sounded like an accusation. "We remembered what you forgot." Arguments broke out. Some species claimed humans had found ancient technology and misused it. Others suggested this was an elaborate hoax. The Vextar demanded military action, though no one could explain what they would fight against. Taishin found himself back on New Seoul, standing in an empty street as night fell. The lights turned on automatically. Somewhere, water ran through pipes. Machines continued their programmed tasks. But there was no purpose to any of it anymore. He had mocked humans, called them primitive, laughed at their simple technology and slow progress. Now they were gone, and he stood in a city they had built, surrounded by evidence of lives lived and questions asked, and a civilization that had been reaching for something. He looked up at the stars. Humans had always looked up, even when the Council dismissed them, even when they were denied expansion. They had kept looking, kept searching, kept asking questions. What had they found up there? What had they remembered that everyone else forgot? Taijin did not know. But standing in that empty city, with alien stars above him and human buildings around him, he felt something he had never expected to feel toward humanity. Fear. Fear of what they had done. Fear that whatever they had discovered, whatever truth they had found, his people had stopped looking for it centuries ago. And now it might be too late to find it again. Back on the Council station, Soman filed her final report. In it, she included one last observation, something she had noticed in the human data networks. Humans had been conducting massive deep space scans for decades, not looking for planets or resources or anything practical. They had been scanning regions of space that the Council had marked as empty and useless. But humans had found something there, something that made them leave everything behind, and they had not shared it with anyone. The question that haunted the Council was simple but terrible. If humans found something so important that they abandoned their entire civilization to reach it, what did that say about the civilizations that stopped looking? 6 months after humanity vanished, the Galactic Council was falling apart. Trade routes that depended on human stations had collapsed. 3 major shipping companies went bankrupt when human-maintained relay networks stopped functioning. Dozens of species discovered their technology relied on human-designed components that no one else knew how to manufacture. The galaxy had not realized how much the small human civilization had quietly supported until it was gone. But the real damage was not economic. It was psychological. The empty human worlds haunted everyone who visited them. The unanswered questions festered like wounds. Yuna was a xenanthropologist from the Mothal species. She had 6 eyes and the ability to see in spectrums most species could not perceive. She had spent 20 years studying extinct civilizations, but the human disappearance was different. Humans were not extinct. They had chosen to leave. She had requested access to human archives, and the Council granted it reluctantly. Now she stood in a library on Earth, surrounded by millions of books and digital records. Humans had loved books, physical objects you could hold and read. Most galactic species had abandoned such things centuries ago. Yuna picked up a worn journal from a desk. The name on the cover read Deho, and it was dated 2 years before the disappearance. She began to read. The entries were personal thoughts mixed with research notes. Deho had been a xenanthropologist too, ironically. He studied other species while being dismissed by them. One entry made Yuna stop. The Council calls us primitive because we still ask questions they answered 1,000 years ago. But did they answer them? Or did they just stop asking? There is a difference between knowing and understanding. They know how to use hyperspace. But do they understand what hyperspace really is? We have been researching the founders for 40 years. Not a single Council species has published new founder research in 300 years. Why did they stop looking? Yuna felt her multiple hearts beat faster. The founders. The mysterious ancient civilization that had created the hyperspace network. They had disappeared millions of years ago, leaving behind technology that every modern species used, but none fully understood. She spent the next month reading everything Deho and other human researchers had written about the founders. What she found shocked her. Humans had been obsessed with the founders. While other species were content to use founder technology, humans wanted to know where the founders had gone, why they left, what they had become. Human researchers had discovered something the Council had either forgotten or ignored. The founders had not died out. They had not been destroyed by war or disaster. According to human analysis of ancient sites, the founders had transcended. They had evolved beyond physical form into something else. And the technology they left behind was not abandoned equipment. It was a test, a trail, a way for younger species to follow them if they proved worthy. Yuna took her findings to the Council. She expected interest. Instead, she found dismissal. The founders are gone, the Council speaker said. What they were or where they went is irrelevant. We have their technology. That is enough. But humans did not think it was enough. Yuna insisted. They kept researching, kept questioning. What if they found something we missed? Impossible, Taijin declared. He had become even more hostile since the disappearance. Humans were barely a Type 1 civilization. They lacked the scientific maturity to understand founder technology at any deep level. But Quan, the leader of the Vextar Empire, looked troubled. He was old even by Vextar standards, his crystalline body showing fracture lines from centuries of life. He had built an empire by being cautious and paranoid. What if the humans did find something? He asked quietly. What if their disappearance is connected to founder technology? Then we are all in danger, another council member said. If primitive, humans could access something that powerful, they might return. They might attack us. Fear spread through the council chamber like poison. Species that had dismissed humans for decades suddenly viewed them as threats. Theories multiplied. Humans had found a founder weapon. Humans had made a deal with hostile forces. Humans were planning revenge for years of being ignored. The council fractured along these fault lines. Some species wanted to destroy all human facilities to prevent whatever danger might lurk there. Others wanted to study everything humans left behind to find answers. A few, like Yuna, believed humans had simply evolved beyond the council's understanding. Economic collapse made everything worse. Species blamed each other for the human situation. Old rivalries resurfaced. The Vextar began annexing human territories, claiming they needed to secure dangerous technology. Other species objected, seeing it as a power grab within 8 months of humanity's departure. 3 species had withdrawn from the council. 2 minor wars had started over resource disputes. The unified galactic civilization that had existed for thousands of years was crumbling. Yuna ignored the politics and continued her research. She traveled to a human deep space research station that orbited a black hole. It was one of the strangest installations humans had built. A massive array of sensors pointed at empty space. The station was still operational. Its computers still ran complex calculations. Yuna accessed the main database and found decades of scan data. Humans had been listening to something. She analyzed the data with her team. At first, it looked like random noise from deep space. But when they applied filters that humans had programmed, patterns emerged, signals, not natural ones, not from any known civilization. These came from a place the Council had designated as the Empty Zone, a vast region of space with no stars, no planets, no reason for anything to exist. But something was there. Something that sang in frequencies only visible when you knew exactly how to listen. And humans had been listening for decades. The logs showed that human scientists had become increasingly excited in the final years. They had decoded some of the signals. They had understood something. And in the last year before the disappearance, human activity in the Empty Zone had intensified dramatically. Ships had gone there. Hundreds of them. They had found something, and whatever it was, it had changed everything. Yuna reported this to the Council, but by then, no one was listening to anyone. Quan's empire was militarizing, preparing for a human return that might never come. Other species were hoarding resources. The Council met less and less frequently. One day, Yuna received a message on her private communicator. It came from Earth, from the AI named Ji-hoon. "I believe you are ready to hear part of the truth," the message said. She traveled to Earth immediately. The planet was strange now. Plants grew wild without human management. Animals had spread from farms and zoos. Nature was reclaiming what humans had built, but slowly, as if reluctant to erase the evidence of their existence. Ji-hoon's facility was overgrown with vines. Yuna entered the main chamber where his quantum core resided. "Why contact me?" she asked. "Because you are still asking questions," Ji-hoon said. "Most of the galaxy has decided on answers. They fear humans are threats or dismiss them as lucky fools. But you are still trying to understand." "Then help me understand," Yuna said. "Where did they go?" "They graduated," Ji-hoon said simply. "The founders left a test, a trial that remains active across the galaxy. It is not a physical test. It is philosophical. Can a species continue to evolve? Can they keep asking why instead of just accepting what is? Most civilizations reach a comfortable level of technology and stop. They maintain rather than create. They use rather than understand. But humans did not stop," Yuna said. "Humans were too new to know they should stop," Ji-hoon said. "They were called primitive, which insulted them. So they kept working to prove themselves. And in trying to prove themselves, they did what no other species has done in millions of years. They solved the founder's test." Yuna felt her world shifting. The test was about transcendence. Yes, the founders transcended physical form. They exist now as patterns of consciousness in higher dimensions. And they left markers for others to follow. But you must choose to follow. You must want to evolve beyond comfort and safety. Humanity was ready. They chose to ascend. Can others follow? Yuna asked. "The door remains open," Ji-hoon said. "But first, the galaxy must remember what it forgot. You must remember how to wonder." 1 year after the humans vanished, Yuna convinced the remaining council members to meet at Ji-hoon's facility on Earth. It was not easy. Many species refused to come, either from fear or pride, or simply because they no longer cared what the council did. But enough came. 23 species sent representatives, and they gathered in the overgrown building where the last human AI waited. Quan came personally, which surprised everyone. The Vextar leader rarely left his empire's core worlds anymore. He looked older, his crystalline body showing more fractures. His empire was struggling. Without human trade and maintenance, crucial systems were failing. He needed answers, even if he hated where those answers might lead. Taijin accompanied him, along with a dozen soldiers. Old habits. Quan trusted no one anymore. The council members stood in Ji-hoon's chamber, surrounded by humming quantum processors and screens full of data. Some looked uncomfortable. A few seemed curious. Most just looked tired. "You claimed you have a message," Quan said to Ji-hoon. "We have come to hear it. Are you ready to listen?" Ji-hoon asked. "Truly listen?" "We are here," Quan said impatiently. "Speak." Ji-hoon's voice filled the chamber, calm and clear. "Humanity left you a message. But to understand it, you must first understand what they discovered. The founders did not die. They did not flee. They transcended physical existence and became something beyond matter and energy. They exist now as pure consciousness in dimensions your current science cannot measure." Murmurs ran through the gathered species. Some sounded skeptical, others intrigued. "The founders left their technology as a trail," Ji-hoon continued. "A test to see which younger species would continue to evolve. Would they be satisfied with using technology they did not understand? Or would they keep asking questions? Keep pushing boundaries? Keep seeking truth instead of just comfort? "We have advanced," a muffled delegate protested. "We have expanded. We have grown." "You have maintained," Ji-hoon corrected gently. "For the last 300 years, galactic civilization has produced no fundamental scientific breakthroughs. You have improved efficiency, refined existing technology, expanded in space. But you have not created anything truly new. You have not asked the deep questions. Why does hyperspace work? What is consciousness? Where did the founders go? You stopped asking because you were comfortable." Yoonji, a physicist from the Crystalline Collective, stepped forward. She was young by her species standards, barely 100 years old. "We studied the founders," she said. "There are entire academic disciplines focused on them." "You studied their ruins," Ji-hoon said. "You cataloged their artifacts. But you stopped actually researching them. Humans found records from 300 years ago showing active founder research by multiple species. But in the past 2 centuries, that research essentially stopped. Why? No one had an answer. The silence was uncomfortable. Humans never stopped," Ji-hoon continued. "They were the newest members of the council, the youngest civilization. Other species called them primitive, which they found frustrating. So they worked harder. They studied everything other species took for granted. And in doing so, they found what you had missed. A holographic display activated, showing the empty zone, that vast region of space with no stars or planets. Humans discovered that the founders left markers in the empty zone, not physical markers, dimensional ones, patterns in the fabric of reality itself, instructions encoded in mathematics and quantum fluctuations. A path for others to follow. Follow where? Quan demanded. To transcendence, Ji-hoon said. To evolution beyond physical form. The founders still exist. They are waiting for others to join them. But each species must choose, must work for it, must prove they are ready by solving the puzzle themselves. Taijin laughed bitterly. You are saying humans were smarter than us? More advanced? Impossible. Not smarter, Ji-hoon said. More curious. You had centuries of head start, but you stopped being curious. Humans had the disadvantage of starting late, which gave them the advantage of still caring about understanding rather than just using. Yuna spoke up. I have studied Daeho's research. He and his team spent decades analyzing founder sites. They found patterns other researchers had classified as decorative. But they were not decorative. They were mathematical instructions. A map. Show us, Yoonji said suddenly. The young physicist looked eager, almost hungry. "Show us this map." Ji-hoon hesitated. "If I show you, your civilization will fracture further. Some will embrace the knowledge. Others will reject it violently. Are you prepared for that?" "We are already fractured," Kwon said quietly. "Show us." The chamber filled with holographic equations and dimensional models. Ji-hoon displayed decades of human research, the patterns humans had found, the mathematics they had decoded, the path they had followed. It was beautiful and terrible. The complexity was staggering. The implications were profound. The founders had not just left instructions for transcendence. They had left a philosophical test embedded in the instructions themselves. You could only solve it if you approached it with the right mindset, not seeking power, not seeking advantage, seeking understanding for its own sake. Humans had solved it because they were trying to prove themselves worthy, not worthy of power, but worthy of knowledge. That subtle difference had made all the difference. Yoonji studied the equations with wide eyes. "This is real," she whispered. "This is actually real. We could do this. We could follow them." "Some of you could," Ji-hoon agreed. "If you remember how to wonder. If you remember that the point of civilization is not comfort but growth, not stability but evolution." "This is madness," Taijin said, but his voice lacked conviction. Even he could see the truth in the equations displayed around them. "Where are the humans now?" Yuna asked. "Beyond," Ji-hoon said. "They exist in dimensions you cannot yet perceive. They have become something new, not dead, not gone, transformed. Can we contact them?" Yoonji asked eagerly. "Not yet. You are not ready. But they left me here to deliver their message when enough of you were ready to hear it." "And what is the message?" Kwon asked. Ji-hoon's voice changed, became deeper, more resonant, as if multiple voices spoke through him. "The message is this. We did not abandon you. We went ahead to prepare the way. We are not angry that you dismissed us. We understand that older civilizations often forget what younger ones remember. That comfort often kills curiosity. But the door remains open. Any species, any civilization, any individual who is willing to grow can follow. The test is still active. The founders still wait. And we will welcome you when you are ready. But you must walk the path yourselves. We cannot carry you. You must choose evolution over comfort, understanding over power, growth over safety." The chamber fell silent. The holographic equations continued to rotate slowly, showing paths to something beyond physical existence. Kwon stared at them for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "This will cause war. There are those who will see this as a threat, who will want to destroy this knowledge rather than embrace it." "I know," Ji-hoon said. "Humanity knew too. That is why they left quietly. They did not want to force you, did not want to break you. They simply showed you that evolution is possible. The rest is your choice." "I want to study this," Yoonji said firmly. "I want to understand." "So do I," Yuna added. Others voiced agreement. But several delegates looked angry or afraid. Taijin backed toward the door, his hand on his weapon, as if the knowledge itself was dangerous. The council was fracturing before Ji-hoon's eyes. But it was a necessary fracture, a breaking that had to happen before something new could be built. "The galaxy must choose," Ji-hoon said. "Comfort or growth, stagnation or evolution, fear or wonder. Humanity has made their choice. Now you must make yours." In the weeks that followed, the galaxy split. Some species embraced the human discovery and began studying the founder's map. Others rejected it as dangerous delusion. The Vextar Empire fractured internally, with younger Vextar joining Yoonji's research teams while older ones followed. Kwan's increasingly paranoid leadership, the council officially dissolved. But from its ruins, something new began to grow. A movement. A collection of species and individuals who had remembered how to wonder. They called themselves the Ascension Movement, and they had work to do. 3 years had passed since humanity departed. The galaxy looked nothing like it had before. Half the former council species had joined the Ascension Movement, dedicating themselves to understanding the Founder's path. The other half formed the Preservation Coalition, determined to maintain traditional civilization and reject what they saw as dangerous mysticism. Tension between the groups ran high, but so far, actual warfare had been avoided. Barely. Yuna stood at the edge of a massive research station floating in the empty zone. Around her, thousands of scientists from dozens of species worked together, studying the dimensional markers humans had discovered. She had become the de facto leader of the movement, though she never asked for the role. People simply trusted her curiosity. Yoonji worked nearby, surrounded by holographic equations. The young crystalline physicist had made breakthrough after breakthrough, her mind perfectly suited to the complex mathematics of transcendence. She had grown more excited with each discovery, barely sleeping, driven by the desire to understand. "I think I have it," Yoonji announced suddenly. Her crystalline body pulsed with light, a sign of intense emotion in her species. The final piece of the puzzle. "I know how they did it." Scientists crowded around her display. The equations were beautiful, elegant. They showed not just how to transcend physical form, but why it was necessary. Physical existence was just one layer of reality. Consciousness could exist in higher dimensions, perceiving and experiencing things impossible in normal space. "Can we replicate it?" Yuna asked. "I think so," Yoonji said. "But it is not just about the technology or the mathematics. There is a philosophical component. You must want to grow more than you want safety. You must release attachment to physical existence. Not through death, but through transformation. It requires a kind of courage that humans apparently had." A young researcher named Bora spoke up. She was from a species called the Windborn, beings of gas and electromagnetic fields. "I want to try. I want to see what humans saw." "It is dangerous," Yuna warned. "We do not know if non-humans can transcend. The Founders and humans did it, but we are different species with different brain structures and consciousness patterns. The mathematics do not care about biology," Yoonji said. "Consciousness is consciousness. If the theory is correct, any sufficiently aware being can transcend. But we need to test it." They built the apparatus over 3 months. It was not a machine in the traditional sense, more like a quantum framework that would allow consciousness to detach from physical form and shift into higher dimensions. The mathematics said it should work. But mathematics could be wrong. Bora volunteered to be the first non-human to attempt transcendence. She was young, barely 30 years old, but she had studied human philosophy and founder mathematics obsessively. She believed she was ready. The day of the attempt, hundreds gathered to watch. The apparatus glowed with strange energies, creating distortions in local spacetime. Bora entered the field willingly, her gaseous form swirling with anticipation. Alarms suddenly blared across the station. Ships appeared on sensors. Dozens of them. Preservation Coalition warships, led by Kwan himself. "This is a mistake." Kwan's voice boomed across communication channels. "You are destroying civilization, abandoning everything our species have built. I cannot allow this test to proceed." Yuna activated the station's communication system. "You cannot stop it, Kwan. We are not forcing anyone to transcend. We are simply offering the choice." "You are seducing people away from reality," Kwan replied, "making them believe in fairy tales of higher existence. This ends now." His ships moved closer, weapons charging. Yuna's team had no weapons. They were scientists, not soldiers. The station could not defend itself. But then Bora made her choice. She activated the transcendence apparatus herself, not waiting for Yuna's approval. Energy engulfed her. The mathematics became reality. And for a moment, everyone watching saw something impossible. Bora expanded. Not physically, but dimensionally. Her consciousness became visible as patterns of light that existed in spaces between spaces. She was still there, but also everywhere. Still herself, but also more. And then she spoke. Her voice coming from no single location, but from the air itself, from the quantum foam of reality, from everywhere and nowhere. I see them, she said, her voice filled with wonder. I see humans. They are here. They are everywhere. They are waiting for us. The warships stopped. Even Quan seemed frozen by what he was witnessing. Bora's physical form dissolved, but she did not die. She transformed, became something that existed partially in normal space and partially in dimensions beyond. And through her, a bridge formed. Suddenly, everyone on the station could feel something. A presence. Many presences. Consciousness that existed beyond normal perception. And then they heard a voice that many recognized. It was Minho, the last human ambassador, speaking through Bora from wherever humans now existed. We did not abandon you, Minho's voice said gently. We went ahead to prove it was possible, to show you the path. But we cannot force you to follow. We cannot carry you. Each species, each individual, must choose for themselves. Evolution or stagnation, growth or comfort, fear or wonder. Another voice joined his. Haijin, the military liaison. We are not superior to you. We were just desperate enough to keep asking questions when everyone else stopped. You had the advantage of time and resources. We had the advantage of still being curious. More human voices joined, creating a chorus. We are not dead. We are transformed. We exist now in ways your current science cannot measure. But we are still us. Still human. Just more than we were. Through Bora, they showed images. Dimensions beyond normal space where consciousness could exist without physical form. Realities where thought and matter were the same thing. Experiences impossible to describe in words, meant for three-dimensional beings, and they showed the founders. Ancient beings of pure consciousness, existing in spaces between realities, waiting patiently for younger species to join them. They were not gods, not perfect, just very old and very patient. They had been waiting for millions of years for others to solve their test. Quan's voice broke the silence, and it was not angry anymore. Just tired. Why did you not tell us? Why did you leave without explanation? Would you have believed us? Minho asked. Would you have listened to humans telling you that you had stopped evolving? That you had become comfortable? You dismissed us as primitive for 70 years. Why would you suddenly accept our greatest discovery? We could have worked together, Quan said, but his voice lacked conviction. We tried, Haijin said. For 7 decades, we tried to share our research. But the Council was not interested in understanding the founders, only in using their technology. So we continued alone. And we succeeded alone. But we did not want to stay alone. That is why we left Jihun. Why we left markers. Why we made our departure a mystery instead of a goodbye. We wanted you to wonder, to question, to remember how to be curious. Yoonji spoke up, her voice shaking. Can others follow? Can we transcend like Bora did? The door is open, Minho said. It has always been open. The founders keep it open. But you must walk through it yourselves. We can guide. We can encourage. But we cannot force. Evolution must be chosen. Bora's transformed consciousness flickered between dimensions. "It is beautiful here," she said. "I am still me, but I can see so much more, understand so much more, feel so much more. This is not death. This is waking up." Quan's warships remained motionless. His voice, when he spoke again, sounded old and broken. "I was afraid. I am still afraid. My people have existed for 10,000 years. We built an empire, controlled a quarter of the galaxy. And now you tell me all of that is just comfort, just stagnation." "Not all of it," a new human voice said. It sounded like Yunji from Earth, the human premier. "You built amazing things, preserved peace for centuries, created art and culture and civilization. That was not wasted. That was necessary. But it was a stage, not a destination. Civilization exists to enable growth. But your civilization stopped growing, started maintaining instead. That is when comfort becomes stagnation." Yuna felt tears forming in several of her 6 eyes. What happens to those who do not choose to transcend? What happens to those who want to remain physical? "They remain," Minho said simply. "This is not about forcing everyone to ascend. The founders exist in higher dimensions, but they do not interfere with physical civilizations. They just wait. Some species might take millions of years to be ready. Others might never be ready. Both choices are valid, but the choice must be conscious. You must know the door exists before you can choose whether to walk through it." Over the following months, the galaxy made its choices. Not as unified civilizations, but as individuals. Some chose to transcend. Like Bora, they transformed their consciousness and joined the humans and founders in higher dimensions. They did not die. They just became more. Others chose to remain physical. Not from fear necessarily, but from love of the material world. They wanted more time to experience sunrises and taste food and touch others. That was valid too. The ascension movement dissolved, replaced by a looser network of support. Centers where beings could learn about transcendence if they wished. But no pressure. No evangelism. Just information and choice. Quan surprised everyone by being one of the first major leaders to transcend. His empire fractured when he left, but he no longer cared about empires. He had spent 3,000 years building and controlling and maintaining. He was ready to grow again. Taijin remained physical. He became a teacher, helping younger species understand the choice they faced. He had mocked humans once. Now he honored them by ensuring others knew what they had accomplished. EUNG transcended after 5 more years of research. She wanted to understand everything before transforming. When she finally did, her last words in physical form were simple. The mathematics were correct. Reality is so much bigger than we thought. Yuna remained physical for 10 years, documenting everything, writing the history of humanity's departure and the galaxy's awakening. She wanted future species to know what happened, to understand the choice they faced. When she finally transcended, she found humans waiting, not as separate beings, but as part of a vast consciousness that included founders in Bora and Yunji, and countless others who had chosen to grow. Minho greeted her in ways that had no words. Just understanding. Just welcome. Just the shared joy of growth. Earth remained empty of humans. But it was not abandoned. Young species came to study what humans had built, to learn from the civilization that had refused to stop asking questions. And in the empty zone, the markers still pulsed. The founder's test remained active. The door stayed open. Across the galaxy, individuals continued to make their choices. Some transcended. Some remained. Both groups learned to respect each other's decisions. And in dimensions beyond normal space, humanity watched and waited, ready to welcome others. but never forcing, never demanding, just offering the possibility of growth to anyone brave enough to choose it. In the silence of humanity's departure, the galaxy had finally learned to hear itself think. And in that silence, they found not emptiness, but infinite possibility.